And welcome back to the Film Reelcast. I'm Stuart, your host. It's that time of the week, but saying that, I'm later than usual. I've had such a migraine, it's been something similar to this. And seeing that, you can understand why I've been in no position to podcast. But I'm back. And it's WandaVision. It's episode 6 of WandaVision. We're over halfway through. And things are getting so crazy. There's so many theories out there. When you go on the internet and you look at different YouTube channels, at different web pages, there's so many possibilities of different directions that this show can go in. It's absolutely mind-blowing. But this episode focuses on Halloween, and it's on the early 2000s. So we'll see where this goes and what clues and what different directions it goes in. I'm sure it's going to tangent off yet again. But before we go into that, just a reminder, check out the channel, check out the playlist. There's so much more to watch. As well as WandaVision, you've got all 3 seasons of Cobra Kai. You've got The Shield. You've got The Mandalorian. You've got other spoiler reviews. And I'm just adding our audio podcast onto our playlist as well. Now, we started off back in 2014 doing the audio podcast. It was myself and James. And it grew and grew. People have fallen by the wayside. But me and James are still there. We've now got Stuart and Paul as well. So the recent audio podcasts that we've done, like Shoot 'Em Up, RoboCop, the last one we've done Lethal Weapon. I'm posting on a playlist just for audio podcasts. So there's no video, but it's a chance to listen to one of our audio podcasts as well. So go on, check that out. There's lots to watch. And as I say, subscribe and leave comments. It's always good. And thanks to everyone who's subscribed. And thanks to everyone who's left comments. It's been really, really positive, and I thank you for that. Okay, without further ado, on with, and I'm very excited you can see that, episode 6 of WandaVision. So the introductions change as it goes on each week. It gets more and more modern. And this is very much Malcolm in the middle. And you can see that as it goes along. And sometimes you get characters Billy and Tommy sometimes break the fourth wall. But it goes through the house. And interestingly enough, Agnes is there. Agnes normally isn't there. Especially on the intros when it comes to the family. And if you look, she's got naughty kind of on material in her bum. That could go back to the Agatha Harkness theory that a lot of them are out. I've got another one coming later on, which a lot of people have banded around, which I haven't mentioned, but I thought about, but we have to wait for that. But back to the beginning. And it's got naughty written on Agnes's behind. Is that because she's Agatha Harkness? Is that a message? Or again, is it put there to make people like me read too much into it? And when you listen to the music, and again, just have a listen to the lyrics. It says, keep it going. Is this all an illusion? And these are kind of subtle hints that is what's happening in this the world that Wanda's created. And we find out she has kind of created this world because it expands later on. And that, is it an illusion? And the words are really, really clever. I didn't notice first time. It's just again when I watched it for a third time, looking out for different things that I picked up on it. But go back and listen to the words and see if it is a message. Let me know what you think, or am I just reading too much into this? And again, could be reading too much into this, but you've got Pietro Maximoff as himself. Why have you got that? When it comes to Billy, when it comes to Tommy, when it comes to Vision and Wanda, it just has their names. But when it comes to Pietro, it says as playing himself. Is that because, as Darcy pointed out, that they recast Pietro and it is the one from the X-Men universe? Or what is that? Again, am I reading too much into this? Is there just a simple explanation and that's it? So even on the intro, when you see Billy, when he breaks the fourth wall and talks to the camera, the outfit he's wearing, bear in mind it's Halloween, is identical to the future character when he becomes Wiccan. You can see from the picture just how similar it is. And you can see Wanda coming down, a complete throwback to the comics, a lovely touch, a really, really good uniforms. And Pietro makes a comment about trick-or-treating when they were younger. And again, his version of what happened is different to Wanda's version. And that's really strange. And she gives him a really strange look as well. So is that because he's a character who she wanted to come back, but she couldn't bring the actual one back because he's dead. We know he died. She saw him die in Age of Ultron. So a kind of character has been brought back that will just fit the bill. which is why she didn't kind of recognise him and was shocked that he turned up, because it wasn't something that she asked for. Possibly someone else has brought Pietro back for her benefit, which again is why it hasn't been properly worked out as in their backstory, because as you see through lots of this, she questions him, and Wanda's in control. She's got all of these people in Westview under her control, so she knows what they're doing because they're kind of programmed, like they're puppeted by her. But she keeps questioning everything that Pietro does, as if he's like a stranger, and she's kind of checking him out. Even Billy breaks the fourth wall and looks at the camera and says, "Mum's been acting different since Pietro arrived." And Pietro keeps referencing some trauma that Wanda's suffered, which is why she's confused about things.
That's not exactly how I remember it.
You probably suppressed a lot of the trauma.
So it's as if he's trying to kind of cover for her mistakes and the blanks that are obviously there through the conversations they have with each other. So they're dressed up, and Vision wants to go out and explore. Obviously, he's got so many questions, and he's defiant against Wanda and says that I'm going to go out, you're going to be left alone, you can go out with the kids. And she says, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. And he says, well, what? Again, as if it's like scripted, as if there's things that he needs to do that she's in control of. And it's when Pietro comes in that he's unsure as well with regards to what's being said. It's as if what he says is completely unscripted. And you can see the look on his face of kind of concern, and Wanda's as well. Because when Pietro comes over, he says, don't worry about it, I'll step in. The twins need a father figure. Now that could be a clue, because that's a strange thing to say, especially for something like this, which is so trivial. And the look on his face when Vision says, there you go, it's sorted out, and he kind of pumps him on the chest, and the look of, what are you doing? So is this, there you go, this is another theory that I've got. Is Pietro really Mephisto? And that's why he's referring to himself as being a father figure. Because in the comics, as you can see from the picture, the two fragments that were created for Billy and Tommy were from Mephisto, and they became part of him. So is he referring to that these originally are my children because I am Mephisto? I mean, it's just an idea, or it could just be complete nonsense, but it's really, really strange. And the look on Pietro's face when he's having his conversation is just a bit strange. It's the kind of the little things at the moment that I'm looking for, just to see if there's any clues. And again, when Vision leaves and Wanda turns round, you've got her brother there standing in front of her, and it scares the actual crap out of her. And why would it do that? Everything's scripted. If it's not scripted, it wouldn't make her jump. So which again could prove that Pietro isn't part of the script, meaning he shouldn't be in this world, that he's been brought in there by someone else, or someone else is actually playing him. And again, another really good callback. You see the Halloween outfit for Billy and Pietro is the original comic book Quicksilver style. Really, really good, including the hair, which is swept back, the two bits that are standing up. It's a great touch. And Monica Rambeau and acting director Hayward are loggerheads in this. Hayward is of the opinion that Wanda is evil, that she's some kind of terrorist, that she's a baddie, and that she only wants destruction. And I can kind of get his point of view, because she is supposedly holding thousands of people hostage with some kind of mind control. But having been in there, Monica is of the opinion that she needs help, she's suffering from some kind of PTSD, and that she isn't bad, and if we could get in there and help her, we could solve this situation. But Hayward is intent on taking her out and causing destruction. And I think this possibly could go back to when Wanda went actually in, broke into the labs and stole the remains of Vision. And the remains which I think that they were trying to take and experiment on, because you could see that he was cut up and build some kind of weapon out of what was left of Vision, or learn from his technology to build a weapon. And Vision being kidnapped, it could go back to an 80s comic called Vision Quest. And that's where Vision was kidnapped, disassembled by the government, because they thought he was going rogue, and they wanted to build him as a weapon. But he was rescued, but when he was rescued by Wanda, he was like an emotionless android. But you can clearly see that Jimmy Woo, Darcy and Monica are loggerheads against acting director Hayward. And these three work really well. They really bounce off each other well, and they're a great team. I mean, due to the disagreements of their opinions about Wanda and what's actually going on, Hayward actually kicks Woo, Darcy and Monica off the base. But we know this is never going to work, and they're going to come back. And amazingly and interestingly enough, it's Jimmy Woo who makes the first punch. They take out a couple of guards and steal their uniform. They then use Darcy's ability to hack into the system to find out what Hayward has been looking at, and hack into his files to see why he's so intent on taking Wanda down. And conveniently enough, as in all films and all TV series, when this happens, the uniforms fit. I would be the unlucky person with a really large head, massive feet and stomach that I could never find a uniform that would suit me unless I took someone out who was an extra in probably Lord of the Rings. You see Wanda out with Pietro and the two kids in the town. And remember last series, or the episode where one of the concerns that Vision has is why there are no children. Why are ours the only children who are playing in the playground when there's no other kids any other time? And you can see from the picture there's loads of kids out trick-or-treating. And you wonder, are these kids who have been kidnapped, are all of these kids under mind control? Or have all of these kids been put there because of the concerns that Vision has and someone put them there? Whether it's Wanda, whether it's someone else. And again, you get the reference to hell, to Mephisto, where the one thing that Pietro shouts out to Billy and Tommy is unleash hell. You get quite a few references to there.
Unleash hell, demon spawn!
But all the hub, and we'll talk about this, all the busyness is always around where Wanda is. And she's in the main square, and it's really busy. And like in many programmes, when you get lots of things happening, I mean, Endgame was one of them, where you look in the crowd to see who you can see. You can see someone wearing a Freddy jumper and a Jason mask standing in the background. It's really cool. And also over Wanda's shoulder, you can see this really creepy figure looking at her, standing there with this strange mask on. She just appears to be looking at Wanda. It's really, really creepy. And again, whilst they're out talking, Wanda asks about the orphanage together and some questions about the kids there, and even says, "You're testing me." He goes, "I know why you're testing me, because I look different." And even Wanda says, "Yeah, why do you look different?" And that's a huge clue, as in someone who hasn't been created by Wanda. He's clearly not someone who's been hypnotised and put under Wanda's spell. So who has put Pietro there? Is it Mephisto? Is Pietro Mephisto, or someone else done it? Has Agnes done it? We really don't know, but it's really strange, and he can't answer any of the questions that Wanda asks him about their history. And they make a really good reference to kick ass. When they're talking, he says, "Yeah, let's kick ass." And obviously the kick ass is the comment that they make back to the film Kick Ass, which stars Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Evan Peters, both together as characters in Kick-Ass. And even Wanda says that. And I love that little callback. That could be so easily missed. And it's weird because when she's talking to her, she's talking about both the kids, and she asks about Vision. And he says that Vision isn't working on like the kind of like the antisocial behaviour rounds for the kids. And that confuses her. And even Herb says to her, "Are you okay? Can I do anything? Do you want something changed?" So it's as if Herb has accepted the fact that he's under mind control, because we know that Herb is part of it, because we've seen the driving licence back in the S.W.O.R.D headquarters. But it's strange that Herb makes that comment. So you see Vision going out exploring Westview, and he's clearly not in the town centre, it's more in like the suburbs of the town. And he comes across this house where you've got a lady just hanging up the Halloween decorations in her front garden. And she's hanging them up, and she's kind of stuck on a loop. And her hand's just moving, and behind you see her husband just picking up and putting down like a pumpkin. And it's almost as if, because they're not in close proximity with Wanda and they're not under her total control, that they're kind of stuck in a loop. And it's really effective. It looks really creepy and spooky. They're not saying a single thing. They're just stuck there. And as I said last week, the adverts you get in this are some kind of message or a story, a path that Wanda's been on. And this one's Yo Magic. You get a young boy sitting on an island. It's all done in real great kind of plasticine models. And this shark jumps out. And this shark reminds me, with the colours of grey and white, of Pietro. Might not be, but that's who it reminds me of. Some smart talking shark. And the kid can't open this kind of Yo Magic yogurt pot. And there's lots of different things as people believe that this could mean, but they reckon that, and I've looked at different theories, that it could be Wanda and that she can't deal with that magic, and because she's stuck in this village, and that's where her magic is, that she's kind of going to die because she cannot move out. If she moves out, then she'll lose vision, so she's stuck in this dome. But I don't know, I don't really agree with that. I don't know, I don't really know what this advert means. It's not as clear as the soap they had, or as the Stark toaster, or the watch that they had before. So I honestly don't know what this means. This is probably the first advert that I don't really understand what the kind of hidden message is. I mean, if you've got any thoughts, please leave your comments below as to what you think this advert is actually kind of referring to. And it's interesting because when Wanda talks about whilst Pietro's there, he says, well, I'm just playing my part to look after the Rugrats, to talk to the husband, and my main thing is just to give you grief. Now, does that mean, again, I'm probably reading too much into this, but does that mean to give you grief as in Billy and Tommy are mine? And remember the comic picture where the kids are fragments of him and he takes the children back? Is that what he's referring to as grief? It's the grief as in lost rather than the grief as in trouble. Again, let me know what you think. I could be talking complete nonsense. And you get Billy and Tommy running around in the square collecting candy. And it's interesting, the one thing that Wanda says is don't go past Ellis Avenue. And this plays on to where Vision goes later on, where you see Ellis Avenue, and you learn why she says don't go beyond this point. So back at the S.W.O.R.D base, you learn that Hayward is tracking Vision alone. You can see the other people who are supposed hostages on the map, but he's tracking where Vision goes. And again, is that because Vision is a weapon and that he wants to know where he is so he can grab Vision if possible? And that's why he wants to take out Wanda. And then Monica refers about going in there again. And they look at her blood work. And again, this is a real hint to Photon, the biggest one we've got yet. That due to the fact that she's been in there, that it's altered her blood work. And it's kind of changing her, kind of like mutant style. So this is a massive hint that soon she's going to be Photon. And it appears that she's aware that she's changing as well. So possibly in episode 7, next one, or 8, that we might see some kind of hint, which would be great to see a hint of Monica with kind of superpowers, especially if she goes back into kind of Wanda's universe as well. I mean, what will that do to her? And even on the map, you can see that the residents that are in the middle, in the town square where Wanda is, there's a lot of movement. And all the residents who are on the outside, on the periphery of the town, aren't moving, they're static. And again, that goes to show against what Vision has seen with the people who are just standing there because they're caught in some kind of loop. And you really get the effect of this when Vision goes down an avenue and everyone is actually frozen at this time. They're not in a loop. And he goes back to his old self, and he's Superman style. He kind of flies up to get a bird's eye view of what's going on. And he can see in the town that everything is lit up as you go towards the middle of the town. Around the edges, it's dark. And that's when he goes to see a car. And if you look in the picture, it's Ellis Avenue, which is the same road that Wanda told Billy and Tommy not to go past. And obviously the reason why they can't go past is because it's outside the dome. And the bit that really threw me, and it still does throw me, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are, is he sees Agnes, and conveniently she's dressed up as a witch, which goes on for the theories and the hints that she could be Agatha Harkness. But she's sat there in her car, and she's can talk, but whereas the others can't talk, and she says that she's lost. So Vision uses his powers and he unlocks her mind. And she starts talking, and she looks scared, and she kind of feels for her chest. Is she feeling for the locket that we see her wear that goes back to her being Agatha in the comics? I honestly don't know. Again, let me know what you think. But she recognises Vision as being in the Avengers, but Vision obviously doesn't know his history. And he pointed out last week he doesn't know anything until he got there inside kind of Wanda's dome, and he only knows going on from there. And that's clearly because he's dead, and that's why he doesn't have any recollection of when he was in Ultron or anything of Civil War whatsoever. But I don't understand why Agnes keeps saying you're dead, and she keeps repeating it and repeating it again.
Dead. 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 Dead.
And she's even scared, and she's one person who I wouldn't have thought was scared. I was looking at some kind of explanation that she'd say to Vision as to what's actually happening. And even in the town square, there's so many references to Mephisto. You even get the devil, kind of the effigies of the devil burning. I mean, I know it's Halloween and you do get this, but everything could be a hint, and I think this is a hint of what's to come. Especially when you see these kind of characters, and then it goes on to people like Wanda, or it goes on to Pietro. And it's strange, because, again, Pietro breaks script. He turns around, he says to Wanda, "So where were you hiding all these kids these time?" And she looks at him really surprised and doesn't know what to say. And again, it's as if he's from the outside asking her what's actually happening and how are you controlling everything. And it's another clue that Pietro isn't who he says he is. Because finally Wanda says, "I don't know how I did it. All I remember was just feeling completely alone." And she's referring back to the moment. There's a lot of talk about this, especially at the end of Infinity War, when she's standing there looking at what she's going to do now, what are options now that she's lost Vision. And I reckon it's from there that she created this world around Westview. And she says, "I felt all alone." So I think through the PTSD of losing Vision, that's when she's created this world. And he even speaks to her about the ethics of hiding children away from their family, and that the only reason why he's come in is it's because like a bank holiday special being Halloween, and that Pietro's making like a guest appearance. And it's whilst they're having a conversation when she turns around and looks at Pietro that she sees a dead version of him with the bullet holes in exactly the same place that he did when he was in Age of Ultron. Very similar to the vision she did have of Vision when he was greyed out, like in Infinity War, when he had the stone ripped out of his head by Thanos. So again, it kind of goes off script, and it's the massive hints. This one is glaring and in your face. So Vision, as you can see in the picture, decides to cut across, go past Ellis Avenue and break out of this dome. And it's when he does this that you can see from the pictures that it's Billy, who's kind of inherited more of Wanda's powers, that can sense that something is wrong. And you can see Vision's body breaking down because he can't survive outside of the dome, because Wanda's the one who's created him as a living being inside the dome, and he's breaking down, and Billy is the one who can sense this. And Billy rushes to Wanda and lets her know what's happened, and Wanda stops what's happening in an instant. Everyone around her stops. And just as he's going to die, and you've got Darcy there as well, saying that he needs help because he's going to die. But again, is Hayward letting this happen so he can get Vision's body, so he can go back to use it as making some kind of weapon? But the way to get around this, it was just so surprising. I really didn't expect it. It was brilliant. Wanda expands the actual dome, expands the field around Westview, and sucking everything in, including the S.W.O.R.D agents. And it's interesting that the S.W.O.R.D agents, when they get sucked into this, they turn into clowns. It's so funny. It's a bit of a middle finger up that these people are just seen as clowns and entertainment, and it's brilliant. And some of them kind of mime putting their hands up as if there's like an invisible wall, which is again is a sign of what Wanda's done with her dome around kind of Westview itself. And you get a kind of chase very similar to like Jurassic Park, when you've got the big Tyrannosaurus Rex behind them. This time you've got the dome that Wanda's created chasing them, and Darcy, who's handcuffed by one of the agents to a vehicle, gets sucked inside the dome. So it'll be interesting to see how Darcy adapts and what she becomes and who she becomes when she's inside the dome. And they're being chased, and all of the agents, and you get the helicopters turn into hot air balloons, you get jeeps like Hummers turn into kind of hot dog vans. It's really, really good, and it expands it, and it's absolutely enormous, and Vision is saved. So it'll be really interesting to see what's going to happen. How is Vision going to react from kind of being saved in a way? I know he didn't want to be saved and he wanted to break out that dome, but how will Wanda react to the fact that he tried to escape? And what's going to happen to Agnes as well? I mean, there's so many questions. And Darcy, who is Darcy going to be, and how is she going to fit into this universe? And we know that if Monica goes back in to rescue her, which she's probably going to do, is she going to turn into a photon? Is this final visit into the kind of the dome going to be enough to change all of her DNA, kind of turn her mutant to a certain extent, and turn her into photon? So it was a really good episode. Again, it asked a few questions. The main questions is, who is Pietro? Is he just a brother? Is he from a multiverse? Is he Mephisto? We honestly don't know. It just asks us so many questions. But it was another really good episode. It was just so interesting the way things are starting to evolve. Okay, that was my excited ramblings of episode 6 of WandaVision. I really am enjoying this. But don't forget, subscribe, check out everything else on the playlist. The next podcast we're doing, the audio podcast on all good podcasting platforms, will be Lethal Weapon 2. We've decided we've just done Lethal Weapon 1, the 87 classic. We're going to go through and do Lethal Weapon 1, 2, 3 and 4. We'll see if they improve. We'll see if they steadily go downhill. I know what my views are. But I'm sure this is the Film Real Cast, and thank you for watching.